Hello friends, welcome to AKULMACH Business Channel, and in our Leaders Voice section today, I will be joined by a very eminent speaker, globally acclaimed Mr. Kevin Cottam. He is the CEO of Go Nomading PT Limited from Singapore. Today he is joining us from Portugal, and we are going to discuss about how to open up business as the life is coming back to normal, and how to leverage our connections and go about improving our business. So without further ado, let me welcome Kevin to the show.
Hello, Chandra. It's really wonderful to be back with you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, I think it's very interesting what is happening right now, with everything opening up in different organizations around the world, and also countries opening up their borders and getting rid of all of the restrictions and the testings and things like that. And it's an interesting connection. And how do we leverage connection, which is an interesting point of what you're saying, and that's very broad, this aspect. But I would like to just share a little bit around connection, what I think is some of the pieces that are very important for connection within organizations and also just in life in general. Because really the role that we play in an organization is actually us individuals, and so therefore the connections we take with us. But let's talk about this in a second for a moment. But the actual or join together. And isn't that what we're trying to do within organizations, within teams? We're constantly talking about connectivity, as to joining together and to find the best possible ways to not only have communication, but also to create and innovate together. So the organization, plus also the individuals within the organization and the whole stakeholder chain can be very much interconnected. Up to connection. The meaning of connection is a relationship where are associated with something else. And so this is an important thing that we understand. It's another word, which is a relationship. And everything is a relationship. For example, in relationship systems, coaching is about relationships. You are never not out of relationship. So if we put those together, relationship and connection, is that they are very, very powerful terms. And this is one of the most important things, I think, that I have found. And with the work that I did with nomadic cultures and spending time in nomadic cultures in Mongolia and Kenya, and also in Morocco, as well as Namibia, I would like to share a little bit of a story about something which I believe is extremely important in this conversation, not only for organizations, but with it. So as I was with my guide and my photographer and my translator, my driver, we would be moving around in the Sahara, and even in the rocky Sahara, which is the premise to the Sahara, the sandy Sahara. And we were looking for little tents, or we were looking for a little house. And we found one in the rocky Sahara, and so we zoomed off towards it, and we stopped, and then we greeted. And there was a greeting, of course, where you gave sugar, and you gave tea, and you gave other things, but you also did a little head knock to say hello and to connect. And so we went in to the little room that he had, which was beautiful, and it had all sorts of Moroccan and beautiful colored cushions and blankets, and also carpets that we were to sit on. So we sat on the floor, and he started to create and to make, the master of the house, making the Moroccan tea. And the Moroccan tea ceremony, like a British tea ceremony that you're used to in India, is that in many ways is a form of developing rapport and developing connection. And so this was very important. And so the conversation was in Arabic. So I just sat and I watched and I observed and I listened. And it was very important to see what the body languages was happening. He would create 1 cup of tea and he would give it to us all, and we had a shot glass of tea. He would create another one, there'd be more conversation, and the conversation just kept going on between my guide and the master. I didn't know what they were conversing about, but they were connecting because nobody knew each other. So they were developing this rapport of how are you with another person. This was extremely interesting to me. And then after 3 cups of tea, my guide said to me, and who was speaking to him, said, "You can now ask your questions." And I thought, well, why now? What has happened in this conversation? But I found out, and let me just share with you what had happened after, was that they were conversing. They were talking about setting the land, setting the respect and the possibilities of who am I in this organization, or in this environment with them. And they had told them that I had been to these other places, Mongolia and Kenya, and spent time with nomads. And so anyway, we went along a lot of first world questions, and he gave me some answers. And then he asked me a question. And he said to me, "What makes us all similar?" Now, this was very interesting to me because in organizations, we're constantly, and even generally in life, we're looking at what is differences all the time. Differences are separations, and separations are not connecting because that doesn't join us together. We are constantly separating. And so I thought about this for a moment, and I thought, well, what does he mean by this? And what do I mean is the answer for this? And I said to him, I said, it's your humanity. And I believe that to be strong because what the humanity and the sources and the values of the underlying what made them as human beings in different cultures and religions and foods and environments and contexts and histories was that there was this underlying sense of humanity, which is this sense of connection. And in this sense of connection, we have lost this on many terms because we are very sort of business-minded, which we don't think of it as connection, but all of it is. Let me go back to another thing, which is energy. And energy, what is that? For example, you can have a plug, all right? You can have a plug and you put it into the wall and then it gives you energy. But what is that connector? It is the source of the plug and the outlet to create this energy. This is a connection. This is a very important coming together of a source and the wall and the energy and therefore the electricity. And what is electricity? Electricity is a vibration. And electricity, it gives us light. Electricity drives our computers. It drives your organization, your technology. So all of this is connection on the very basic form. But it is the human. And what we lost so much in COVID was the interconnection, I say interconnection now, of individuals sharing their energy and understanding that all parts of an organization are completely interconnected. It is not just silo, 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 because it is more horizontal, because they all have to interconnect. Come together is what connectere is, the joining together of all the systems within an organization. So how is it important then? How important is connection? It is the life breath of an organization. You can only do so much on this screen, right? We can't touch it, we cannot embrace it, you know? But in real life, when we are in the same environment, we can connect in a different way. We feel the energies very differently. We feel the connections very differently. And this is what empowers individuals. And we talk about performance, and I would prefer to talk about value. If we're talking about connection and value, we're talking about the humans coming together, joining together in manifesting teams, which are coming together on multiple levels. So let's talk about some of those levels. So one is care. Care is so important. There are many people that will say, I'm sure you've come up against this. I don't care about you, or I don't care about this philosophy, or I don't care about this organization. It comes with some pretty nasty feelings inside. Caring is what has come about in the organizations and through COVID. Because of the mental challenges that we've had of this disconnection, we have felt this loneliness, the aloneness, even in, Zooms like this, of having multiple images of people, but it's not the same. It is, as they say, sama, but different, and it is different. And so we need to think about care. How are you caring for the individuals, the humans that are in your organization? But I don't just mean in your organization. I'm talking about your whole stakeholder chain. And this is a food chain. If we relate it to stakeholder chains, supply chains, in nature, we have a food chain. What is being fed off another so that you get from a small plankton all the way up to a big fish, and then ultimately ourselves. It's the same in an organization. You have a multiple food chain, and those are connections. Those are needing care. How do we treat them? How do we value them? How do we understand each other? These are the similarities. It's not about the differences. Because if you do the differences, that's what we get. We get this separation. We disconnect. So it's very interesting to understand the care. How are you caring? The important thing is that if you are in an organization and you care for another individual, or you care for your team, or you show care within the projects that you're doing, it's like a family, the community of a family. Families are about connecting. Sometimes there's challenges, yes. Sometimes there's disagreements, yes. But we need to care for those individuals. And that is something that I think is very important in organizations today, is understanding how are you caring? What are you setting up in types of systems to care for people? In the HR departments, how are you caring for everyone? Are you listening to them? Are you observing individuals? Are you interaction? This comes back again to some of the work that I've done with nomadic cultures, and I realized there are 6 very important points and attributes and behaviors which help not only to care, but to connect. And those 6 are to be silent and to be still. So what does that mean? That means about finding that contexture in yourself of that stillness so that you're able to connect with another on another level. It's about being alert to a variety of different aspects which may be coming in from different avenues within an organization. The alert of somebody saying not something very nice, or the alert that something is happening, a new action is happening, a new communication is happening, staying alert. It is about observing individuals, observing teams, observing your stakeholder chain, observing the external world that you're actually in, understanding business, observing. It's about listening. It's about listening deeply, not only to your inside voices and connecting to those, but observing and listening and connecting to the voices which are outside, within the environment, within your organization. All of these are very important. The next one is curiosity. Curiosity is a connection. It is an energy. It is a wonderful way of exploring. It's what I call go nomading and be curious, which is always lots of fun. This is what is needed in organizations, plus also listening to your intuition. Your intuition is so important. It talks to you. So for example, I am sure that you have had many times that your intuition is saying, oh, I should be doing this, or I want to do this, or I want to think about, having a new job, but I don't take that new job, or I think that, no, it's not right. But it's about, intuition is not just a feeling inside of your gut, but it's also, once it starts to vibrate throughout your whole body, the physical aspect of it, then it's a listener. That's when you should be listening to it. So these are about connecting, and connections within your organization and the way you have your teams. It's so beautiful, really, is to find these nomadic cultures and to be able to find this inner wisdom which lives within every single one of you and is the embodiment of your organization. But where has it gone? And how can you bring it back? Very, very important. So the purpose, we come to the purpose. Everyone's talking about purpose. What is the organization's purpose? The values. What are the values? What is the reason for this organization to be? These are the connections that you need to have so that there is an inner working of everyone coming together and joining together in a red line, as we call a fil rouge, which is in French, what I'm not saying very well, but it is the red line. What is the red line of your organization, which means the purpose? What are the values of that red line, which is stringing it together, and also the connective pieces, interconnective pieces of the systems, of the way you are treating each other, the way you are caring for each other, the way you are listening to each other, the way you are working together. Maybe it's hybrid, maybe it's not, but how are you putting these together? It all is connection. But this purpose and the values are extremely important because this is the driving energy of the force of an organization. I am not sure if you've seen, I have walked into many organizations, I've seen these beautiful values on a wall, and then you actually walk into the organization and nobody's actually doing them or actually uplifting them because they've seen them and they don't recognize them anymore and they just go about the work, like a very sort of treadmill. That is not connecting. That is a disconnection. Many organizations have people that are disconnected and they say, hey, they're not performing. Then you need to look at why are they not connecting? And it's not about performance, it's about the individual. Maybe their mindset for the position that they're in is not and not helping them. Maybe they're in the wrong position for what their talents and skills are. This is caring for and connecting to what they do best.
These are very relevant and very meaningful because we can all relate to all this. But let me ask you a question about something which has been talked about quite often recently, and that is called the social currency. And when we talk about social currency, it is the based on the understanding that I have, it is the sum total of your credentials in real life and sum total of your total credentials in your virtual life. And if you add these two up, it becomes your social currency. And it is nothing but connections. We are talking about connections here. So what is the relevance of social currency in today's context, especially when you're quoting these examples of your experience with Maasais in Kenya and other places and Sahara? What is the relevance of the social currency in today's world, especially for the businesses of today?
We have more buzzwords, right? Social currency. Gosh, we live in these worlds of so many different buzzwords of where we feel that we can connect with these buzzwords, which they actually, for many people, have very different meanings. So the social currency, understanding absolutely that the social media, Social media, it depends on the way you look at it. I've had a very sort of love-hate relationship with social media. One, because I feel that it can make you extremely anxious because there is not necessarily a true connection. People often will put how fantastic they are and how fantastic they're doing and all sorts of things, which is undermining a lot of other individuals in many ways. And so this is the negative part of this that I'm speaking about, and that can disconnect people not only from themselves on the one side, but also from the disconnection with the social interaction which is going on within social media. But there's a very positive way as well. Depends on how you want to engage. So I think that what's really been important for me, and I will just share it with my situation, is that I decided to remove myself from social media, all my platforms, from Facebook, from LinkedIn, and from IG, because I wanted to disconnect, because I wanted to find out what I wanted and how I wanted to connect on social media. And I think this is an extremely important thing, is understanding truthfully how you want to engage, how you want to interconnect, how you want to connect, how you want to connectere, join in social currency and social media, as we say. But it's important that we understand ourselves, and this comes back to connecting to the self and knowing ourselves. And there are many, many people that are very formative in their lives, and they are not interconnecting themselves. They're seeing everything on the external, and the external, what others are doing. And they feel that they don't have the possibilities. Now, this can be a problem. But that is where I believe social currency and social media, we need to understand ourselves first before we move on to almost anything, whether we're in an organization or whichever. But as we interconnect and we connect on social media, what is our message? How do we want to join together with others? How do we want to respect others? How do we want to know what is in the information that is being delivered on any of the platforms? I believe that it's a great way of interconnecting and connecting, but it also cannot be. And we have to be very careful of what that is. And that is knowing what you want to say and how you want to do it from the heart and truthfully. Because there's so much fake news, as you know, Chandra, out there. And what do you believe? And this is a tough one for most people in this world, and it is a tough one for myself as well. And I'm very grateful that I've taken the time away from this social currency, and now wading in how I want to wade in. And not promising all sorts of things, and not spewing stuff that is not true. It is what comes from my heart. So I think that's important about this connection, is connecting wherever you are. It's from your source. If it's with your whole stakeholder chain, it is coming from the truth. And with the social currency, I believe comes trust, if you can trust the others. Now, let me share with you something that I learned also from the Messiah. It's that everyone talks about trust, and can I trust this connection? Can I trust this individual? Can I trust this conversation? How can I trust? And trust, as we say, can be built over a long period of time. And that is what I started off with, was that tea ceremony, was building the trust, was building the rapport, that this is important. But we go to trust, but the Messiah shares with me, you have to gain respect first before you will get trust. And I said, whoa, that's very cool. That's very interesting that you link the first stage to the second stage. And I said, well, how do you then gain respect? And they said, well, it's very simple. They said, it's about being consistent in the words you say. They are consistent all the time. And you don't deviate and say, I'm going to say this to this person, I'm going to say this to this person, around the same thing. And then the trust is not built because the respect is not there. So it's being consistent, it's being clear, it is being fully engaged. And that will bring you trust. It is what we call walking your talk and being truthful to walking your talk. So this is the piece of the social currency which sometimes is not there. And I think that in my personal experiences, that if we connect from the truth of what we say and our actions are there and they're consistent, and then to also apologize if they are not, because something else goes wrong because we're human, but to be very truthful about this. And that leads to connection, strong, trustful connections, whether it's social currency or if it's not, it's just one. So that's what I have to say. It's a long story. Sorry, Chandra, but anyway, you got me on the roll.
All right, Kevin. So I think I fully agree with you of these points that you made about trust and building connections and throwing some really good examples today from your life experience. But let me again ask you a similar question. Let me be devil's advocate here in this discussion, and that is about social media. Because now more and more social currency is getting associated with social media, and you already said that you wanted to opt out of social media, but that is not possible. These social media platforms provide all sorts of compliance like GDPR compliance, use policy, legal adherence to the users, and also anti-bully law, and in nutshell they control the environment in such a way that you actually build trust, you speak the right thing, you have consistent approach towards your connections on social media. So don't you think there is a resemblance between the social media trying to replicate to the real world environment which you were just quoting few minutes back? What do you feel?
I think that human nature is that what I have experienced in life, and I'm sure that you have experienced in life, that there are some not very nice people out there. And they will do whatever they need to do, whether they're crooks or whoever they are, they will bully people, or they will share, incorrect things. And you have the people that are not facts checkers. And there are certain people that are always going to be this in societies. And sadly, it is. And this has become another platform, is social media, for them. And even though there are all sorts of government regulations and also different types of rules and regulations that they still get through. And because people want to get their message through, and they'll find every single way that they can to find the loopholes. I just believe that we then need to connect only with the people that we feel are what one may call our tribe, that are thinking in the way we wish to think, and that they are open thinkers. And I believe that we need to find the people always, whether it's the connections that we have. You know how it is in real life is that we don't always connect to certain people. And that's just the way it is. And we cannot connect to everyone because it's just too much. Social media allows you to connect to thousands of people possibly. And maybe they're on the same track as you, and maybe they're not. I think that you find your own space, and you need to find the people that you can respect and trust, and the information that they're giving, and you follow, and you engage. And that's how this is a wonderful area of social media when you can do that. But it's about finding those niches. It's finding those communities. It's finding those people that you're able to have the conversation with. You're able to connectere, you're joined together with. So I'm not sure if that answers your question completely.
Well, it does. So what you are telling us is to make sure that we follow the social media sensibly and not believe everything which is thrown at us. But I think it's a question of knowledge also, because many people don't know how to configure their social media. So more than using the social media appropriately, I think it's the question of how do you configure your social media so that you don't get unnecessary, unwanted material thrown at you. And I think most people don't know about that. But I think let's leave it aside. Now, coming back to our current century, you're talking about connections, how they are so important, and how to leverage the power of connection now to reopen our world post-pandemic. And a lot of people are confused about what to do now, because whatever connections they had earlier are not present on social media. And that is where the gap is. I am seeing it myself, people who are taking more time to accept this reality of social media, social engine, augmented reality, they are actually having really tough time. So people migrating from their connections which they had in physical world into the social world is a big challenge, and people are not finding it very comfortable. So from your point of view, what is your advice to people, what they should do quickly so that they can create either new connections on social media or try to see if they can bring those connections from real world to social media world? What do you think?
Well, it's that social media is one thing. Human connection in the flesh is another thing. And it doesn't take a lot of brain surgery to realize that when you are sitting in a cafe with somebody that you enjoy to be with, that it is a wonderful thing. And you're not necessarily on social media, except some people are always on their phones. And so they're not having any connection. So you may as well not be sitting with each other. You may as well be just somewhere else. However, they find that as a companionship at the same time. So there is something that's going on. I sense that there is that loneliness because we've had this time of being separated. And it's like coming out of like a turtle going into their shell and coming out of their shell, is that we are now coming out into this relationship now again of how do we step out and we feel the safety of it in organizations or within individuals because, they're spreading diseases or things like this. But it's more than that. It is about the desire to be in relation with individuals in a live form. And I think that will come back again. I mean, you see it, like, for example, in Singapore, they opened up the boundaries and everybody is out into restaurants. Everybody is out into the clubs again. It is like people are coming together. They've been desiring it so much. Yes, the social media is there, but it is not a replacement. All right, I think this is where we have got ourselves all mixed up, is that it's another tool to communicate. Fabulous. But it's about how do we use these tools, as you started to talk about. How do we engage with these tools? It's the same thing in organizations or trainings. We have all these tools, but it's really the action of the engagements. So, for me, I think that you just got to get out and just start living again. living your life. I mean, I know we've all been through it, and I felt it myself. And sometimes I had this problem of going into real life of, oh no, do I want to sit close to anybody? Do I want to engage with anyone? How do we do that? But I believe that, remember, these things are tools that help our lives. They are not our complete life. The business is the same. It is not all about technology. It's about the human as well. Because the human is creating the technology. These are the connections. Everything is connected and interconnected. You just need to go out and know that the touch of a hug is much more delicious and wonderful than just having this. This is just a tool. This is another way forward. Yesterday, I went for a walk there's a beautiful garden where I'm staying here in Portugal, and it is a community garden. So people have their plots of land of where they're growing vegetables, or their flowers, or a few trees. And it's overlooking the beautiful water. The sea is down the hill. And I just went there and I sat and I communicated and connected with just the environment. And there were some other people there, and I said hello, and we connected. And this was beautiful. We can all do this. The human touch, the social media is a tool. It is not the only thing we have. So what I say, connection in organizations is extremely important. Connection in general is extremely important. It is the relationships that are linking or associating someone or something to another. That's what connection means. And that can be in all sorts of forms, as we say, the social currency, it can be in live, it can be however. But we need to own our lives and know that it comes from the heart. Care. Yeah.
So let me ask you, Kevin, another one. And since you mentioned that social media is a tool, your mobile phone is a tool, and as we progress towards more advanced societies, now most of the people, including Microsoft, Facebook, they're talking about the metaverse. That means building your own metaverse and using the augmented reality eyepieces. So you put them on, and say for example, you would have spent something like $30,000-$40,000 to reach Portugal to settle down here. But if I had the VR headset on my eyes, and if I paid like $5, I can pretty much have the same experience that you had this morning. You went out for a walk. I can also do it sitting in my room without leaving my room, wearing a VR headset. And probably I can talk to that gentleman on the other side also, if he's also wearing a VR headset. And I will have a virtual experience of roaming in his home garden, kitchen garden. So I think these are realities, Kevin. While we have the connections, but how do we leverage our connections is these tools, and these tools are progressing, advancing every day as we speak. I'm sure you must be aware of this game, which started off as a game by Microsoft called it's called Metaverse, but it has a name called Minecraft, and started off as a game. Now it is becoming a metaverse, and it is available on Xbox. And now this is exactly what the Facebook wants to compete with, and Apple is going to come out with their virtual reality headsets. So whole lot of change in the way we use these tools is also coming, and that is coming in 2022. So I think while the point is very clear that we have the connections, we have to leverage those connections, we have to go out there, exercise our good sense, use our brain to connect. But then I think the tools are changing, and that is a whole lot of new skill sets. Don't you think, Kevin? Your opinion on this one?
Well, again, they're all tools. Here we are, two of us, right? We're speaking on Zoom, and maybe there's other people that are also tuning in at some point. And they're all tools, but we're humans. This machine can do all sorts of augmented reality, the AR, AI, all of this can be, another world. But there's nothing better than the real world. I'm not saying that we cannot have all of these things. But the real world is where we really connect and where we see and we experience. So they're all fun play toys, and they are maybe fantastic for use in our knowledge and our skills and changing things. Absolutely, I'm all for that. However, are we going to become just a technical pieces? What about this? We may as well just disappear then. In fact, we may end up becoming extinct as it is. And then what's the use of all the technology if there's no people? But the point here, I think you're talking about, is these are all tools, and we need to balance and use them for what they're needed, but not only they're the only way of connecting in life. We need a balance of the way we connect, so that we have different tools that are used for different things. And so we have, different tools in the garden which are used for digging or for shoveling or for planting or whatever. These are all tools, but it doesn't take over the whole human connection. We have to be careful. We have to. I'm not thinking in an old way. I'm not saying that. And saying that certainly these are all fabulous technologies, and they cost money. And what are they doing for the environment is another piece of it, because people just throw them away ultimately. And so that's what's doing to the, it's like you have to have more possessions. And we could go into another connection of layers of things which disconnect you from reality. So this goes into a deeper connection, I think, and a deeper conversation, Chandra. But I think we just have to balance all of the technologies that are coming out and see what we can use and what we can't, and to know that we actually have to sit and talk to somebody face to face at some point. Face to face is also important.
Well, I think,
Let me go on that. If you do an augmented reality and virtual, if you see, this wonderful place that I'm in and you can see it, there's nothing better than to touch the leaf. You can't touch the leaf in augmented reality. Maybe you can, but it's not the same feeling. But maybe they will find it in some sort of space that they will eventually. But there's nothing better than the real. That's my view of the world.
Well, I think, Kevin, you and I are here, and we circle back every week and discuss about these things. And these are real changes which are happening to our industry. And when we talk about AR, there are modules which are going to stimulate your mind. So if you want to have a touch feeling, all you have to do is not touch physically, but stimulate your mind, so that you're touching the other person maybe 5,000 kilometers away. So I think whole lot of development is happening. Whole lot of companies are putting their money behind, and the environment is changing very, very rapidly. So nevertheless, the point that you have told us today is utilizing the power of connection. The tool can be anything, whether physical, take a flight and meet your client or meet your principal, or basically use whatever method you want to use. I think that is the point that you have told us today. And most of the people must utilize their power of connection, because they have each person has at least 1,000, 2,000 connections. leverage those connections locally, and then from there grow further. So thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing this knowledge with us today, and it was lovely talking to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chandra, and really grateful also to be with you.
So, friends, we had a wonderful conversation with Kevin Cottam, who joined us from Portugal, and he's a big promoter of nomadic mindset. So he's basically helping a lot of leaders to maintain proper mindset and also progressive mindset. So if you want to reach out to Kevin and discuss with him or take his help to improve your business in the right direction, the email is down below. You can send us an email and we will make the connection happen. So as always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you again in the next one.